Here we are back on the Gill Connections podcast. Again, just so humbled that you would press play today. I am your host, Mike Cunningham, and I'm excited. We were kind of talking before we hit record here. We have, we're at 300 plus, which never could have seen that when we published episode number 1 back in January of 2020. Never could have seen that we'd hit 300. I don't know why, but I just couldn't envision that. So super excited for that. And inside of those 300, because if you're a regular listener, kind of my background, coaching, and obviously here at Gill for a long time now. I know some guests really, really well. Like they're as close as you can be to family for some of them to me, and I've done a lot of work with them and maybe coached with them and things like that. And then there's people that I get on the show that I didn't even know they existed, and I love that. That sounds terrible when I just said that out loud, but I hope he understands here. Just people I've never met before, and I'm just super excited because there's a lot of coaches out there, and I know for a fact, whether I know you or don't know you, the positive impact you make on young people is immeasurable. And that's why we started the podcast. So I'm super excited to hop into it right here. Help me welcome from the Leap Squad Academy out in beautiful California, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Keinan Briggs. Keinan, how are you, sir?
And I'm doing great. Thanks, Mike, for having me.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't know you even existed until today. I'm so sorry for that.
I take it as feedback. It means I get to do a better job at marketing and
Oh
letting
yeah.
people know the
Well,
story.
love that. And I bless and encourage all coaches to be more well known, whether it's in your circle of middle of Kentucky or you're a large NCAA Division One or a professional coach. I absolutely, because I'm so irritated with this, Keinan, is when I watch like Millrose games or USATF indoors or even the Olympics and things like that. And great athletes, love watching the Noahs and Shakaris and everything. It's awesome, right? So much fun. And I never know who the coach is. And that just now, those two, I specifically do know who their coach is real well, but it just irritates me. It's like, man, behind that great performance is some guy or gal coaching when the who just won the Eagles, when the Eagles win the Super Bowl, when the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, I know who their coach is. When the whoever, I don't pay attention to baseball, whenever whoever goes to the World Series, we know who their coach slash manager or whatever they call it, right? But for the Olympics and for USA, our best in America and best in the world, we got no clue. And I hate that. I really, really do. So I want more athletes to shout out your coaches, and I want those broadcasts to also say, hey, so and so just won the shot put coached by so and so. That seems to me. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Let's get back to what we're really doing here, Keaton. I didn't warn you before we hit record that I'm kind of a tangent interviewer, so we may go. You never know what we're going to talk about here today, and
All for it.
I have my soapbox ready at all times to get on and go off on things that irritate me. But let's focus on what we're focusing on here today, man. Again, so excited. Thanks again for joining us here, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. I hope for you. Even if it's not, it's going to be a lot of fun for me. And so we'll we'll see what happens, man. Keinan, are you a Marvel guy, like the MCU? Do you watch those movies or anything like that? Did you ever collect comic books back in the day?
No, I didn't. Like I was one of those people that probably watched 1,000 movies my whole lifetime. I just was always outside. So my
Okay.
brother was the opposite. He's like, "You ever seen this movie?" I'm like, I didn't."
Well, I grew up collecting comic books and watching the MCU and all those kind of things. And my favorite episode, my favorite comic books are the origin stories. Like how did Peter Parker become Spider-Man? How did Bruce Wayne become Batman? So let's find your origin story. Assuming that you were a track athlete, we've had plenty of great coaches who did not, but maybe assuming you were, where does track and field start for you?
Track and field started for me. Honestly, it started when I was like 9 years old.
Hmm.
I went to a Long Beach Wilson track meet.
Hmm.
My aunt took me to the meet, and I didn't know. I just was just there, and I saw a young girl run I think it was a 2 mile, and she was not doing well.
Hmm.
She was getting lapped, and she was crying. And then I told myself, I'm never running track. I'm never doing that. And fast forward to eighth grade, we had just a regular track meet at the school. And I remember doing long jump the first time, eighth grade. No coaching, just went out there and did it. And then in high school, my football coach, was also the track coach. And he said, "Hey, what are you doing in spring?" I was like, "I don't know, baseball or something." He's like, "Come out to track." And that's where track and field started.
Wait, so first of all, I love that origin story of seeing that kid. First of all, that kid was probably me back in the day. I was the guy getting laughed and crying, and what am I doing here? Uh,
Yeah.
what when you did it a little bit in eighth grade, obviously, but then when high school is where things kind of get real, in my opinion, in my experience of talking to people. So freshman year, coach asks you, "Hey, what are you doing? Why don't you do track?" What stopped you from going? Yeah, coach. Don't see it. I'm just I don't feel like it's me. I'm gonna go do the baseball or whatever. What actually like? How did you get over that initial traumatic event? Really seeing that
Yeah.
kid, that poor kid.
I think it was the track in eighth grade
Hmm.
because I thought track was a mile and running long distances.
Oh,
And
sure.
then when I learned that, oh, this is long jump, and I was like, I didn't even break a sweat.
Right.
I was like, okay. So then when he said country track, I was like, okay, there's options I have within it. So
So
yeah,
track to you was the torturous, 8 laps, and no matter what yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. The
yeah,
the three ring circus that is track, there are other things for you out there. Very cool.
yeah.
Did you mentioned that that traumatic event? I love that. I
Yeah.
wonder how many kids that kid dissuade from doing track in the future. I'm
Right.
glad you got over it. That's good. You said that was at LB Wilson. Did you go to high school at LB Wilson or Poly? I mean, this I just know there's a great track history for
Yeah.
specifically those two schools.
So my parents went to Poly. They graduated from Poly,
Wow.
right? And all my family went to Poly. I ended up moving out to Orange County, so I went to Valencia High School in
Okay.
Placentia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So, what was it like? Again, you eighth grade. I was just having a conversation with some of my teammates about youth track and field, and I kind of consider middle school. My kids doing middle school track and field, and I just God bless all the coaches who coach on that level. I just can't. I can't. You have to have a special level of patience to do that kind of eighth grade and age and younger. So when you get to high school and you did a little long jumping, so okay, I'm gonna do long jumping. So tell me, how did high school track and long jumping? How did all that go?
Well, first, it wasn't even a long jump. It was actually when I came out for track, coach said, "Hey, you were a receiver, quarterback for football. Hop in the blocks. Let's get you on the 100."
Okay.
And so I ran it, and it was just he and I. I think it was a quick little tryout for me to figure out what I can do.
Mhm.
And then I ran, and he was looking at me like, "You're slow." And I was like, "I don't know."
To
Okay,
to the 2 mile with you.
yeah, And then he was like, "I want you to try hurdles," and I was like, "Okay, what's that?" And then he showed me what the hurdles were. He's like, I want you to take 3 steps in between the hurdles and run them. And my first ever time trying the hurdles, I ran a 3 step or 3 step them.
At 39 and at distance?
It was probably at 30, but at distance,
Okay.
yeah.
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I have a
So your
much different experience the first time I did hurdles. Wow. Okay. That's
so
awesome.
your reaction was his reaction.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to take from it. And I was like, did I do it wrong? He was like, you're on varsity. And I was like, okay. So freshman
Wow.
year, I ran varsity. And I was always a hurdler. So that was my thing. And long jump and triple jump came just kind of a tag along because I was running the 100 hurdles, 300 hurdles, and then long and triple.
Right. Well, first of all, I knew there was something cool about you, Keenan. So hurdles are my absolute favorite. My very first ever email address was hurdlelove at
Hey,
hotmail.com. Yeah, I'm a hurdle guy. Anybody who knows me knows that is my absolute affinity is hurdles. It is the best event out there, and there are other amazing events, but hurdlers are just they're just a
it's
step
different.
above cool, man. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Um, so tell me what kind of high school athlete you were. And what I mean by that, I really don't care what your PRs and stuff were because that does, that doesn't tell me who you are, right? But I'm wondering, like we like to, as adults, we like to, do the old man shake our hands at the sky. And, these kids, they don't know who Grant Holloway is and they don't know Masai Russell and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about guys like when I get them here on the show. What about you? Did you know who the hurdlers were? And I don't know what maybe tell us what year you graduated. That'll give us a kind of a time span of what year. But did you know the Alan Johnsons and well, I can't even think of the other names right now. But
Yeah, Alan Johnson was one, but I didn't know. I hadn't watched track and field.
yeah.
I had seen the Olympics.
Mhm.
So then it would have been the 96 Olympics. So I graduated '01.
Oh yeah.
So I was familiar with Michael Johnson.
Of
Um,
course.
uh, that's all I can think of at the moment right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's who stood out the most. But I was like, I'm not doing the 400. That's a lap. We don't do that in basketball. So don't, nope. So, but yeah, so I think, during that time, that's when I was really coming into identifying myself with being a top tier athlete.
Mhm.
So, I always played humbly, I guess you can say. I was always the best athlete on the teams, but I didn't want to outshine my team. I was always just the best athlete, but I
Mm,
brought my teams with me, which was a great skill that I had that naturally that I had. But when I got to high school, I did football first, and then I did basketball second.
okay.
So football, I missed all of the preseason training. The first day of school, I showed up and I tried out and I played the game that Thursday.
Huh.
So
Wow.
I did, I didn't do it thinking like, oh, I'm the best. I just went there. I was like, I didn't know about summer football.
Right.
And when I showed up and they're like, okay, you're on the team, you're starting. So I just played. It was just a game to me,
Right.
so that was kind of my mentality. Um, Basketball, I was a freshman, played basketball freshman that year. So I just was a normal kid, but that's when I realized, okay, I can jump a little high.
Hmm.
I was touching the backboard at that time, things like that. And then when track came, because I was on varsity, I had no expectations. I was just like, I'm just gonna run and that'd be it. So that freshman year was more of just I was doing whatever the coach told me to do.
Hmm.
I was probably the best type of coachable athlete at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So we all kind of, as coaches, we like, well, how can we just bottle that and keep that
Yeah,
throughout the years? Yeah. So
yeah,
obviously, a lot of natural athleticism, and that's what we do here. Is this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have a podcast like this to uplift and honor coaching, because it's like, okay, you can have a lot of natural talent, but if you don't have coaching, that it's only going to get you so far, and not very far typically. So, where does that natural athleticism like? Does your family have a history of athleticism? Like, I don't necessarily know if mom or dad was NBA or anything like that, but like, is there did other family members play sports? Like, was this a part of like maybe kind of I'll call it family identity, if you will, but that this was something we did as the family.
yeah. When I looked up the history of like the Briggs last name, we've been historically athletes.
Hmm.
So like my biological dad was a baseball player. I think somewhere down the line, Tony Gwynn is my cousin. I don't know. I can't prove it. I just that's what I was told. But baseball.
I would tell people that. That's a good thing,
Yeah.
though. Yeah, yeah.
Baseball runs in the family, so
Mhm.
it just makes sense, I guess. Shannon Briggs is a boxer, really, really very known, famous boxer.
Okay.
Um, Somewhere down the line as well. So, yeah, there's athletes there, and then just looking at our my brothers, we're very just gifted when it comes to
Mhm.
athletic ability, and it's just a blessing. It's just I was just given the ability to compete at a high level, and then yeah. So I mean, that was kind of the base that was there.
So did you transition? You mentioned, kind of long jump and high jump or long jump and triple jumping kind of came in later. Did you staying in high school? Did you transition from a hurdler to more of a jumper, or did both those kind of paths stay like senior year? Are you doing high level hurdles plus jumping at the same time, or how did that play out?
Well, I did triple and long jump the whole time,
Hmm.
like all through high school. When I got to junior college, same thing. I actually
Mhm.
added in more events. I was doing the 4x1, 4x4, long triple and high, hurdles, and javelin each
Hmm.
track meet. I was
Okay.
really doing everything. I didn't do the decathlon because they said pole vault, and I was like, no thanks. That's not for me because I'm not that fearless. There are other people that can do that, and I can't. But I kept that going all the way through, even through Cal State LA. I went to
Yeah.
Cal State LA for my university, and I still was a hurdler jumper. Um, there was just hurdles and triple jump only because we had elite jumpers
Mhm.
at that level. Um,
So
and
stay
yeah,
stay in high school for me. Talk
okay.
to me. One of the names that we considered for the podcast was the Gill Shout Out podcast. We love shout outs of coaches, right? So talk to us about your relationship with your coach or coaches, specifically track, but obviously there may be some that,
Yeah.
mentored through football and basketball as well.
Yeah, Coach Van Dam was the track coach. I forgot his first name, but Van Dam's the last name. Because remember from
Coach, every coach's first name is Coach.
yeah, and then Coach Dean Winter. So Dean Winter had the most impact on my life, hands down, hands down.
How so?
Mhm. So I was again known as the athlete, right? And I was on campus known as that guy. But Dean Winter was my English teacher, and my junior year, he just would look at me a certain way, like just proud. And I was like, I never had teachers look at me in that
Mm,
way to where I felt the need to sit in front of the class because I was the cool guy, sit in the back because we got to sit. So I sat in the front Notice my grades changing because I'm paying attention now because I have to, and one of the days he said, "Hey, I enrolled you into a leadership retreat," and I was like, "But I'm not in leadership because that was a class, that was like an actual community group." He's like, "No, you're a leader," and told me what he saw in me. And I went to this retreat, and that's a timestamp of my life where I was able to connect with people that normally I wouldn't have connected with because as an athlete, you're always around athletes the whole time. So now I'm around people that don't even know about sports, and I'm like, we get to connect as people, and so that was huge. And so he was also my triple jump coach. And he said, I have no idea what to teach you in triple jump, but let's figure it out. And so that's where I was able to take more ownership of my results and start to search and do research, and we learn together. So, yeah.
You know, I've said this many times and I will say it. If I could figure out how to work it into every podcast and every conversation I have, I would. To me, the real superpower of a coach is that they see something in other people before they can see it in themselves. You could erase the word coach and put in teacher into that. Good coaches see things in other people before they see themselves. Good teachers see things in their students before they can see themselves. That leadership class, him as a teacher, that was him as a teacher, not as a coach necessarily, right? No athleticism there. But he saw that in you before you did. You were like, oh yeah, no, I'm not in that class. Like, what are you talking? That's for those guys, not for
Yeah.
me. And he was like, no, bro, you're a leader. You need to learn how to bring that out. How did you see? Did you notice kind of, we've got hindsight is 2020. So we have experience, we have hindsight today. Maybe have been hard to see it in the moment as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. But did you see the way you led on the track and in your other sports after that kind of that class or that retreat? Did it affect you of like, oh, I'm going to do things a little differently amongst my teammates?
Yeah. I created the community that I
Mm,
wanted to be in. So when I noticed that leaders, right, are the ones that have impact on community and they find followers to go to lead, right? When I saw that year is when I then said I need to be captain. For basketball, for track, for every event sport that I'm in. I was kind of just already that because of my ability, but then I realized, wait a minute, like it's my duty to make sure that if I'm being seen as this, everyone else can also be seen as that as well. So I
mm.
brought the rest of the team. So I was always captain of the teams after that point. So from junior year after.
That's a great point about captainship. And we name captains in different ways in different sports, and even throughout just track, there's a lot of different ways and reasonings to name captain. And sometimes, and I don't know, maybe it's often, I haven't coached in a long time, maybe your best athlete or athletes are also your best leaders sometimes, but I have a hunch that sometimes not. And as a coach, are you looking at the greater team of like, what am I telling the rest of the team if I pick Keenan, the great athlete, who's not a very good leader as captain, versus Joe, who may not be as great of an athlete but is a leader? What am I saying if I still make the best athlete the captain? What am I telling the rest of the team? It's like, oh, your leadership doesn't actually matter. It just matters, can you jump far or run fast or whatever. So there's some real like, make sure you're doing make sure you realize what you're telling your team by your actions.
Yeah.
And captainship is one of those. Very cool. So as you get towards senior year and you start looking at colleges, uh, where did you mentioned you went to a junior college? Where and why did you end up going to a junior college? And as you're looking at colleges, is coaching at all in your mindset, or were you thinking about going to be a doctor or a business owner or whatnot?
Um, so to add to that before I go into it,
Please,
basically,
please.
20 or not 20, but when I was a junior, I was doing football, did all the summer stuff, and then my mentality was from the Long Beach Poly mindset. So whatever you think of Long Beach Poly football, I was in that same mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a different mindset at the school I was at. And so I didn't feel that the directions of the mindset fit my actual mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I let go of football, was able to focus more on track and basketball. So
Was that
uh,
a was that a hard decision?
it was. Easy decision, hard to talk to an adult to let an adult know that I didn't want to do what he was requesting of me.
Okay, let's tap into that. That's a great. I love this because here we have the mindset of a were you 16, 17 years old?
That's 16.
16. Did you actually go talk to an adult, like a coach, and say, "Hey, coach, here's the decision why," or did you phone it in with a an email or a text or a note, or "Hey, ma, can you tell them," or just not even show up, just ghost them? Did you actually, "Hey, coach, we need to talk"?
I am 100% old school. I walked straight into the coach's office with all the coaches
Bravo.
and sat down with him and let him know exactly how I felt, and that it was my decision and that that's how I felt. It was nothing to do with his program, nothing to do with anything other than I just felt that the direction where I was going, and that's the decision that I made for myself.
Looking back again, hindsight is like the greatest thing in the entire world, right? Did you do it respectfully? And what I mean by that is, hey, coach, I don't like how you're calling play or whatever. That's kind of disrespectful of like, I'm 16, I know better than you, I don't like it, so I'm moving on. Versus like, hey, I'm just not fitting in with what you're building, and that's okay. I'm gonna go do something else. When you look back at it, how respectful were you as a 16-year-old doing this?
Very respectful. I probably could
Yeah,
not say everything, but I didn't lead with any stories,
yeah,
no
good.
no emotion towards experiences. It was just where I'm at now. It's just what I'm looking for. And yeah,
Was that before or after this leadership retreat?
after.
Okay, I was about to say because if first of all, if it was before,
No, it was after. It was after because I quit before football season started.
so leadership retreat and then the quitting of football.
The leadership retreat, I believe, was junior year. So I quit junior year. So I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Well, 'cause what I'm wondering is,
But yeah,
because the example that you're
yeah,
sharing with us, that experience is leadership, and
correct.
that's hard. Boy, I mean, I'm 48 years old. That's sometimes hard as a 48-year-old man, adult, to go in and talk to someone who has authority over me, a boss in that sense, or my wife, and have these like difficult conversations. Right here, you are as a 16-year-old. You have all. If you would have told me, hey, yeah, Mike, dude, I was 16. I didn't want to see those dudes. I was quitting on them. I don't know how they were going to take it, but that's what I had to do. So I just ghosted it. And they just realized after 7 days that I wasn't going to be on the team. I'd
Yeah,
been like, man, I get it. You probably would do it differently today, but man, you're 16, bro. I get it. I get it. So to have that kind of leadership, I mean, that's character and leadership as a 16-year-old. That's amazing. That has to be. I don't think we're necessarily born with that. I think we have to see that. It has to be modeled. Where did you like? You had to have seen that somewhere in
yeah,
a family, teacher, friend. How did you get to that?
yeah. So I can tell you where I got it from. Basically, when I moved from Long Beach to Orange County, was Garden Grove specifically. I went from in Long Beach being just a kid to being the black kid where I
Mm,
was at.
okay.
And so I had experiences there where I quickly grew up to have different perspectives and to learn different sides, to experience things, to deal with experiences that allowed me to get outside of me to figure out solutions. So when I got to this point now, 10 years later, I was able to now say, okay, I understand his perspective because I see it,
Mm,
but here's what I'm feeling,
mm.
and able to express that because I didn't have chances to express how I felt before. So
First of all, I appreciate you sharing that. It's obviously a story I would not have any experience with. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's when I hear stories like that, I always think of like how many other people don't have that experience. They stayed in an environment or something where they couldn't grow in those ways. So I just kind of always think about others. So I love that. All right, so football direction not going well, so we're going to focus on the other sports. So we get back to the question of, okay, a senior year and you're looking into schooling. Where did you go? Why did you go junior college? And was coaching in your mind at all, or were you just thinking about becoming a doctor or a lawyer or something like that?
got it, got it. So the college process from the school I was at, it was okay to go to junior college. It wasn't expected to go to a D1 or whatever. And sports wise, because I was one of the better athletes, not many had been in my shoes.
Hmm.
There were a few. I think Chris Draft was a football player that came out of our high school. He went to the Falcons. And so he was one, I was like, okay, going pro is a possibility, but there was just one, not, there wasn't 30, you know? So I talked to a counselor, Mr. Jimenez. And so at 17, I was able to retain the quote of, you don't need SATs to go to junior college. He said a lot more. I just remember that's what I took from
That
that
stuck.
conversation. Yeah. And so I was like, cool. I'm like, whatever's easy. And so senior year comes into play, and I'm like breaking records, I'm winning everything. Um, and all of a sudden, I'm getting letters from UCLA, these big, Power Five schools, and I'm saying like, what do I do with these? My name's on them. And at that time, West Felix was competing, so Allison Felix's
Mm.
brother.
Yep.
So they were sending his letters to our school because he went to Valencia in Valencia,
Oh,
right?
that's funny.
Correct. So we were getting those letters, and I was like, okay, I want to beat his letters. I want to get more letters than he does. But the problem was getting letters doesn't mean you're having a conversation with the coaches,
Right.
So at the end of the day, I ended up getting recruited by a couple schools that were like local, but I was just better already than their school records. And I'm like, I need to be able to grow in wherever I'm going. So then I ended up going to junior college at OCC, Orange Coast College.
Mhm.
Um, but I will say, oh man, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come into play.
Mhm.
But at the time, coach at Fullerton College was Coach Kiefer. Coach Kiefer was at Fullerton College, and he was recruiting me. He was like, "Hey, you're gonna be a 50-foot jumper. I see where your talent is, and you got to get rid of basketball."
Mm.
And I was like, "No, that's not gonna happen." So stubbornly, knucklehead me, I went to OCC and I played basketball the first year, did well, and was starting, did all that stuff, and then I realized I'm like, wait a minute, track and field started already, and we're still got like 4 games left in league plus playoffs if we make it.
Right. Right.
I'm like, coach, I gotta go because track and field is my passion,
Yeah.
And when I left, I was like, I have to do well
Yeah.
with track because I'm leaving the program.
Right.
But to answer the question about my decision of where I wanted to be as a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, at 17, I was in the weight room. A voice came over to me and said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I want to help people." So I ended up getting a job at Family Fun Center, which is now Boomers. Did that for a year, worked at Champ Sports for a year, and then after that, at 19, I became a certified personal trainer. So that was my thing. So the person that inspired me was as a hurdler, I was running against the Orange County record holder. His name is Dominique DeGrammett, and he had the Orange County record. So my goal was to beat his record. And one day he walked into Champ Sports to buy shoes, and I was like, "Hey, I know you." And then he had this bravado, like yeah, I'm fast and this and that. And I was like, I've been trying to beat your records, all through high school. And then so he had on some type of fitness shirt, for some company. And that kind of sparked the idea of like I could be a trainer.
Mm.
And then that's kind of what led there. So a lot of these signs kind of came in, then I was like,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. And so yeah, that's kind of up to that point.
I love the what stuck from Mr. Hernandez's conversation, the guidance counselor of you don't have to take SAT if you go to community college. I love that as a guy that I took the ACT my junior year only because it was like, oh, you need to have something to go to college. I had no clue about going to college, no clue how I was going to pay for it. Didn't even know if I would go to college. I was like, all right, I'll take it. Took the ACT, did fairly well, and then it was like, oh, well, other people also take the SAT. And that's another test that people. And I started this is back in the day when I don't know how they register now, but we used to get this book to fill out to register for. I mean, you have to scan, try and bubble in all
Yeah.
this information. I remember I was like halfway through my name and I was like, bro, my ACT is good enough to get me anywhere. I think I can go. I am not doing this SAT. So when you said that, I was like, in my head, I actually said it right before you said, I was like, cool.
Yeah. I was like, all
Good.
right.
And what's interesting is, while there's an amazing junior college, community college schools around the country, California has a very deep tradition, not only in great community colleges, but great athletic community
Yeah.
colleges there as well. So that's really cool. So coaching is I'm not hearing coaching is in your mind necessarily, helping other people and at this point like in a fitness instructor type of profession is kind of where we're going in track. So did you study exercise phys or things like that in the community college, or were you still on the I don't want to call it basic track. What's it called?
General,
Yeah, yeah, general studies. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, just general studies.
yeah,
In junior college, I was just trying to get past my classes, to
yeah,
be honest,
yeah, yeah.
because I never really grew up with, how to study
Mhm,
and how to, get great. I was told 2.0 get you compete.
mhm,
And so I got a 2.8 because I was
mhm.
like, I'm over 2.0. But no one told me 4.0 is what you should have. Because
Right.
you know but yeah, so in college, junior college, I was just doing that. There I had some amazing coaches. Eric Moreno was my hurdle coach. He was the one that would force me to get up every Saturday after a track meet and do a full day's training.
Mhm,
Just me, so that was something that I was just like making it work. um, Alan Hodge, who was my triple jump, high jump coach, and he was just a great guy. He never wore shoes ever. He was just out there with his feet out. It looked like he had socks on, even though his socks were off. But and then Coach John Knox was the head coach there at that time. Just great people. The community that they built there was amazing. Our team warmed up together. I knew every
Mm,
person's name on the team. The different events knew each other. We hung out outside of track. It
mhm.
wasn't just, jumpers with them, and it was completely
All right.
a whole team. Just a really, really fun experience. And I learned a lot about how to jump. I learned how to hurdle, learned how to triple jump. Um, I was able to break the records there as well. Just a lot of great experiences that happened there. Um, yeah, so it was just those coaching impacts just added on to the high
Mhm.
school experience. And I was like, okay, I'm excited for what comes next.
Yeah, up to this point, we're about to get to the, finishing off the 4 year side of it. I'm just kind of struck. You seem to have like had just like a really good on the track specific, and hopefully in other sports as well. But it seems like you just had like a great environment, coaching athlete wise, all the way through this high school through community college. Track life so far like that it's funny to watch your face. I've done this 300 times, so I've gotten a lot better at interviewing and kind of body reading, if you will. And your face is lit up when you talk about, like when you said the experiences I had, you're like, oh man, I had a lot of good
Yeah.
experiences. And I don't get the sense it's like, oh, I had a lot of good experiences partying and stuff like that. It's like, no, no, coaching, like you being coached was a good experience for you.
Yeah. Because I didn't really focus on the track. These were just good people.
Mm,
Even my coaches that had no idea what they were doing, they were great. They were there,
yeah.
and my love language is quality time. So I interpreted them being there like, you know what, you must really love the kids around you because you don't have to be here, but you choose to. And I would look at athletes on our team that would be frustrated and, having all these emotions and bring it to track and then make the coach feel a certain way. I'm like, the coach is doing a lot more than you think he's doing,
Mm.
so I kind of had that perspective even then.
Yeah, I was just about to remark on that. So I'm hearing you have an understanding of what a track coach is doing, not just on the surface level of like, oh, they're barking out orders. Like, oh, wait, they're putting a lot of time and effort into to me and my teammates. So you're kind of already seeing this, what I would, as the role that my passion as far as uplifting coaches. You're already seeing this like, oh, coach is a big deal. Like they're doing these things for us.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that. All right. So the good news and bad news about community college. I'm a former junior college coach myself, so I have a ton of admiration. In fact, the junior college national championship. I'm so blessed I get to go to all the big meets around the country, and I will still tell you that junior college national meet is my absolute favorite. I think it's because it's kind of where I'm from, meaning like I'm a kind of guy that I needed a second and third and fourth chance. And and I just look at these kids and coaches, and I'm like, man, these are kids that are just they're grinding.
Yeah.
Some of it's a passion. Just I love track. They're not going to go on to a 4 year side, or grades were an issue, so they had to go there and they're grinding on their grades to get to a 4 year and get a degree. I just look at those kids and coaches at those meets at the junior college national meet, and I'm just uh, my heart. It's all my heart. I just love, 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 love those guys. And the bad news is you only get 2 years. It's a very short amount
Yeah.
of time. So you mentioned you went to, I think you said Fullerton. No, no, you went to Northridge.
Cal State Los Angeles.
I was wrong on every one of them. You went to Cal State LA. Okay. So
Yeah,
how did you pick Cal State LA?
it picked me. So, um, again, when it comes down to the academic side, I just did the minimum, and with that, 12 units is the minimum for junior college. To transfer out of JC, you need 60 units. Well, the math didn't math.
Right. I was
Yeah,
carry the
because
one. Yeah, yeah.
regional championships, I jumped 50 feet 3 inches, broke the record, but it happened to be Sheldon Blockberger's record.
Oh yeah.
That was
Wow.
at USC and daughters at
I
USC.
know Sheldon. Yeah.
Yeah. So he called me and he's like, at the time he was at Cal Poly Slow.
Hmm.
He's like, any person that breaks my records has a full scholarship wherever I'm at.
Wow.
So I was like, cool, because I was not going to go to college to a 4 year without a scholarship. That's just how my
Hmm.
life was at the time.
Hmm.
And so um, that was that. So I had that on the table. So I'm calling schools. Athletes who are listening, if you're listening, you call the schools and you present to them what it is that you can offer to them, and they'll let you know what works or what doesn't. So I called Washington, I called Michigan, I called a bunch of schools, and they were like, "Yeah, we can offer partial, we can do all these things for you." And then what came down to everything was I didn't have the units. I needed to take another year of school, and so I was like, "Oh man." So then I transferred to
You,
Fullerton Junior College.
you know what's interesting? Okay, that's where you said Fullerton. You know what's interesting to me? As a guy so far that is showing leadership and character and I love your admiration of coaches at this age. Sometimes we don't really see that until we think back about our track coaches. So I'm hearing a lot of like maybe it's like stereotypes that I would put in like, oh, that kind of person would be very prepared and would always be on their P's and Q's and yada yada. But I'm hearing this like I know it's a little bit of a dichotomy. I don't want this to offend you, Keenan, but I'm hearing a lot of minimalism. 12 hours. If you 12 hours, cool, 12 hours. 2.0, you're lucky. I'll get you a 2.8. No SAT, sign me up or don't sign me up. It's just interesting, like hearing this, like I don't know. It's two sides of a very different coin here. Like, wow, this kid is loving coaches and doing great athletically, and I'm not hearing you causing any problems. And yet you're 48 hours instead of the 60 because you didn't take 15 hours and all that kind of stuff. It's striking to me.
Yeah, so I put all my eggs in one basket. So when I would train and work hard and study film, all that stuff, I didn't have time to do what was the job description, which is pass your classes.
Okay. All right.
So I was all in for my sport,
Okay.
and to me, I didn't see. I felt like I was so wise, but I just didn't see much value at the way the education system was presenting itself.
Well, we could have a
Not saying
whole
it's
podcast about that because I agree with you, but
correct.
let's keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just was very visual with my actions. If I'm learning something that I don't see makes sense to me in my life,
Mhm.
then I was not active in that learning
Okay.
experience.
All right.
So
Yeah.
I took responsibility on that,
Yeah.
and my grades were still up and down in
Mhm.
junior college. So then I go to Fullerton College
Okay.
and I can't run track because I finished my eligibility.
Right. Okay. Yep.
I chose to go there because I was living in Fullerton.
Mhm.
So, instead of driving to OCC, I'm like, let me just stay close.
Yep.
And so that's where I was now a certified personal trainer,
Okay.
and I was doing that. And I'm thinking like at the time, I'm like, I have a $40 bill to my name. That's all I have, my phone bill.
Hmm.
And I'm making almost $2,000, like $1,500 per month. And I'm like
Hmm.
19. So I'm rich.
You're rich. No, I was in the same spot. I remember
Yeah.
I was a security guard up in Chicago, and I was making 12.50 an hour. And I remember telling my parents, I don't need like I am rich. And now I look like 12.50 an hour. Holy crap! Well, first, yeah. So I'm with you. You're like you're rich. I get it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I'm just enjoying it. And, I didn't have any motivation. Like I was training, so I was doing my own training, couldn't run track meets. I didn't know at that time I can run unattached. I had no idea.
right.
So I'm just training for the whole year, playing basketball too, because it's staying extra shape. And then because I couldn't play the previous years after.
But are you going to Fullerton to get to your 60 so you can transfer and do track, or is it like, well, okay, that's the next step. We'll see what happens when we get there. But
Yeah, so I'm going to Fullerton to transfer to the track at the next school.
okay, okay.
So I'm just
So that
going
is a
through.
goal you have. Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, my vision, my North Star is track and field at the next level.
Got it.
So then I get hurt playing basketball. I had a high ankle sprain,
Of
and
course.
that takes a while to recover. So now I'm just like going to class, which I don't enjoy. And then I voice my opinions. So I was being told a certain perspective in a class, and I just said, hey, this is my perspective. It didn't agree. My grade went down
Hmm.
because I didn't agree. And I was like, I don't understand this process. So now I had to retake that class, and it was just a lot going on that I'm like, my only piece that I had was me being an athlete in the weight room with my clients because that was
Mhm.
still athletics to
Mhm.
me.
Right.
And so I just randomly went to Cal State Fullerton because that was closer to where I lived than Fullerton JC. And the coach there was an assistant, which was Christopher Asher.
Hmm.
And I think I did a meet, or I had ran there from junior college, but then he saw me and he was like, "Hey, I thought you'd be gone out of college somewhere," And I was like, "Yeah." And I told him my story, and he was like, "Oh, wow, okay, well, good luck to you." That was it, right? And then while I'm in my second semester of Fullerton Junior College,
Hmm.
I get a call, and he's like, "I don't see you on a roster yet," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm at Cal State LA now. I'm the head coach here." Come over here. And I was like, I can't because I still have two classes that I failed that I took
Right.
already. And he politely cussed me out, politely put me in check, politely put me in classes. It was summertime and it was already like deep into summer. He got me into a late start English class and another math class. Mind you, I was in Fullerton. I
Yeah.
was going to work, driving to LA Valley College. I'm sorry, LA City College, then back to Irvine Valley College.
Oh
And
man.
that was my days. And I'm like, I can't let him down. I'm passing these classes, which is what I did. And then I got on campus at Cal State LA,
Wow.
and was able to entertain a full scholarship.
Dude, I
Yeah.
mean, the perseverance there. Like, I was a little concerned hearing your story. Like, okay, there's no, not tragedy, but there's no, like, I'm not hearing, like, where's the overcoming? And
Yeah.
academics are a little bit of an overcoming and things like that. So, yeah, that's, again, persistence, because that's,
Yeah.
experience teaches us better than anything. So, I'm sure we're going to find out how that carries through in your
Yeah.
coaching here as well. Okay, let's keep moving forward because we got to get to this is a coaching podcast, not an
Yeah.
athlete podcast,
Got
right?
it. Got it. Got it.
That's
Got
okay. Let's keep this. This is my fault. I'm the interviewer. I'm the one who's supposed to keep this trainer running here. All right. So Cal State Fullerton, give us a synopsis of how that go. And again, as you're getting into Cal State LA and you're getting closer to your degree, where's coaching? Where's actually like track coaching? Is that at all? Has that triggered at all as you get towards graduation?
So from 19, when I was still in junior college,
Mhm.
through that whole process, I was coaching as a
Mhm. Right.
as a private trainer, right?
Mhm.
And so I had amazing mentors
Mhm.
in that process. So I had a general manager that was a woman who lost like 80 pounds. She was very eccentric, just loud. When she was in the gym, you knew that where she was at all times. And she walked me through every machine because back then, machines were the safe way to lift weights,
Right.
you know. So she said, machines are all made by men, so they're tailored for the male body. So when you are a woman, you must work out a certain way, or you're going to start building your muscles in the angles of the male body. So, this is her philosophy, right? And so I just learned from that concept.
Mhm.
And then while I was training, I would just I was one of the popular trainers, and I started having fun with this concept where I was like, you know what, let me train my clients without me showing them. I'm going to articulate what movements
Okay.
I want them to do.
Mhm.
And so I just would always train them outside the box. They
Mhm.
never sat down, they always moved around, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I had huge results with that time frame. So now I'm leaving that space with I've mastered movement
Mhm.
and the how to reach the goal outside the box. So that's the
Right.
coaching piece that I was able to create,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And also how to use my words versus showing someone how to do it.
Mhm.
And then when I got to Cal State LA, um, National Underclassmen, it's a football combine company that would travel the US and just test kids on their these skills. They needed people to help at the event they were holding on our campus. and they came out, and I had football experience. And so they just loved how I worked with the kids because I'm a natural with the athletes and I'm a leader, and all those things kind of came together.
Yep. Yep.
And so I was hired by them to be the West Coast correspondent. So whenever they had anything on the West Coast, they would fly me out to these events.
Wow.
So now I went from personal training to now I'm working with 400, 500 kids at a time.
Right.
Right. And so now that took me from, being great communicator with one person. Now I need to yell across the track or yell across the football field to, these kids that don't care about anything but catching the football and running fast. So I did that for about another 4 years. And then that went all through the college time frame.
Mhm.
And so it took me a long time to graduate Cal State LA.
Sure.
So we'll come back to later on.
Yeah.
But coaching wise, they ended up saying, hey, we're going to open up a facility in New Jersey. So they took over a Velocity. Remember Velocity?
I do.
Perfect. Okay. So for those who don't know, it's a training center for athletes.
Mhm.
And they took it over, and I moved out there to help them run this company
Before or after you graduated from Cal State LA?
right after. Like I
Okay. Okay.
graduated.
Good. That's what I was wondering. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. All right.
I graduated
All right.
winter quarter,
Yeah.
and I went to Vegas to go party, and then I went straight from Vegas straight to New Jersey. Like it was quick.
I mean, that could be daunting. I mean, for a kid you grew up in California, there's I've met a lot of Californians in my life, and every Californian who's out of California, lives somewhere else, always wants to get back to California.
Mhm.
You went, I mean, you can't go farther east. You went all the way to Jersey.
Yep. Went out there, just really enjoyed. Plus, at that time, I was frustrated with the system of track and field. So what I always say is there's a similar format how most coaches coach at the track and field level, at college level. And also when I was in kinesiology, I was told these capital T truths that I just didn't all the way agree with because I had came from experiencing different variables to the same result. So I'm being told running mechanics are just like this. And I'm like, but I found another way to get there with this. And I couldn't have that conversation because I wouldn't pass the test because the test gave me only options to scan, try in A, B, or C.
Right.
So when I took this to New Jersey, I was there because I was done with track. I was like, I'm done.
Right.
I kept getting hurt. I never got hurt before like that. Um, and then, yeah, so we went there. And then, long story short, that was a nice, fun summer in New Jersey. I was on the shore. It was fun, but that job didn't work out, and I moved back.
Okay.
So, but I have been
So you didn't
coaching,
get to experience a New Jersey winter.
and I'm glad I didn't because
I was
it's
gonna say, good
so
luck.
Long Beach.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was really wanting to get to. I was like, how was the winter, buddy? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You missed that one. That's a good bullet to dodge. Absolutely.
yeah,
All right, so we get just like every Californian I've ever known. You get back to California.
yes. Get back to California, and I was like, you know what? I feel stronger. Like I've been training myself, putting my concepts into action and my philosophy, like really hardening that philosophy of what I wanted to do and created my program. And then that year, 2010, I came back to 2009. 2010, I became 13th in the US, PR'd at the trip at the outdoor championships. No coach, just my training program. Applied what I've learned through my years, of course,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, so that was what really showed me all those things. Mind you, I was still building the personal training, group
Mhm.
training business. And so I built my clientele base in Irvine. That's where I was living at that time. And then I decided to take a couple athletes through a training program that I learned from Athletic Republic. It's like a national franchise. It's like Velocity kind of thing. And so there's these protocols that they run. They just follow the protocols. The trainer just follows these running protocols.
Mhm.
Mind you, it's like running on treadmills. It's just like plow press. It's like science meets athletic ability. Kind of like Rocky, where he's fighting, Rocky's fighting the Russian guy, right?
Yeah,
So all
yeah.
these toys, right? And I was like, okay, I'm learning it. And then I saw how it works. I'm like, it's crazy how they can guarantee a set number of results for as a franchise.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, that's something to follow. So then I started studying their program. Then I personally ran all the programs that they had. They had soccer programs, running programs. I did all those things. That helped me because I was able to get in more shape. And then I said, okay, I understand what's happening with this program. Then I met with the lead scientist that designed all the programs. And I said, I'm seeing these trends, I'm seeing this process, this philosophy. And he was like, that's the program. And I was like, cool. So I take three athletes. Nicole Reich, she's a pole vaulter, then two sprinters, Dustin Holtz and Kale Kavanan. Um, I said, okay, I'm going to put you guys through this program, and I'm going to spit you out on the other side. You're going to be better. And that's exactly what happened.
Hmm.
Kale and Dustin went from 11.4 to 10.9 that year in the 100. Victoria Reich ended up, she broke all the records for pole vault. So I just got her in jump shape. Not, I
Mhm.
didn't pole
Mhm.
vault her.
Right,
It
right,
was
right.
great pole vault coaches.
Yeah.
But they all had the same baseline improvements. And then I had a couple other kids that I was working with as well. But that tied me into modern day because the company I was with got the contract to train the uh, teams in the weight room
Mhm.
at Mater Dei. So 2011 is where I ended up going to Mater Dei as an Athletic Republic employee, and I worked with girls basketball and
Yeah,
boys volleyball at that time,
that's
2011.
interesting. That's an
And
interest.
so
I haven't heard that in other high schools. I don't know if that's a California thing or a private school thing. That's interesting.
I think it's a private school thing. They
Yeah,
just were able to outsource companies to come in because you know how it is. Most time after school when the gym's open. But the downtime is that the gym's closed all day.
right.
You're trying to cram in, 17 sports versus make it a class.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
do that. So that's how that kind of worked.
So
I'm there a lot.
you coach yeah, you are all over. I love this. No, it's all good. You're challenging me because because I try to keep like a visual of the journey as we're moving along, and you've got a lot of pieces to the journey, and that's okay because why that's important to me and important for me to have an individual like yourself on the show and showing that is to show other people that it can happen. Like
Yeah.
there's not this like, oh, clean cut journey. Keenan went to junior college and then a 4 year and then GA'd somewhere and then started coaching high school and what, that's somebody's journey. So, some people have had that journey, but I do like this journey of, hey man, I went to this, junior college, went there for 2 years, didn't do the classes that I needed to take, so I had to go somewhere else and finish out classes there. Then I get to a 4 year. I love that because again, there are people listening that need to know that are in the middle of that journey right now. They need to know, oh, my goal of becoming a coach, it can happen. This guy did it, so I can do it. There is a path there. So I absolutely love it and really, really grateful for it. Okay, so you in that Athletic Republica, you coach those three track kids. I thought, okay, this is where we're going to get to coaching. But now you're talking about modern day, and you're talking about boys volleyball and girls basketball. I think what
Yeah. So I was just following Athletic Republic's program
right?
for that. So I was just connected with that community. And then from there, the Rick Martinez, the head coach there, their jumps coach resigned in 2011.
Okay,
So because I was already on campus, I was already known because mind you, I was just coming off of USA Outdoor Championships,
right.
and I'm still have this buzz. And also, I train. I'm in the area.
Yep.
A lot of kids. JT Daniels was another kid that I worked with. Now, I didn't make him who he is.
Hmm.
I was just around in that space. He's also from Irvine.
Hmm.
Nico Remigio, all those kids.
Yeah.
But that was the connection there. So somehow he noticed me,
Yeah.
and then he said, "Hey, the spot's open," and it worked out that I can coach there at Mater Dei, and I was able to be the head coach of the jump group there.
So how did you've got a lot of experiences through Velocity and through Athletic Republica, your own ideas, your own education, you had formal education with things, and then you have your own experiences and thoughts about doing things. How did because that's what coaching is, right? It's an amalgamation of a lot of different things. You've probably heard the saying, a good track coach is a thief, meaning they, listen to Bouchek Snyder and go, I like that. Okay, I'm gonna put that in my program. Ooh, Dan Paff said that. I like that. I'm gonna put that. And you create your own program. There's a Boo way of doing things, a Path way of doing things. You create your own from all these different amalgamations as you now start coaching high school and high school kids, 14 to 18-year-old kids, you yourself, your experiences of being a 14 to 18-year-old athlete. How do you take all those things into, okay, here's the Keinan Briggs way of doing things?
So I actually did that prior to even starting high school.
Hmm.
So the benefit that I had was I already had 10 years of coaching experience before I even started high school,
Mhm.
right? And I also tested my program physically.
Yeah, but so I hear that.
Okay.
And I'm with you. I'm perfectly fine calling personal training coaching. I'm okay with that. It's not my, what I'm focused on, right? The track coach, right? All those things are important. I used to be a personal trainer, which kind of tells you it's not that hard to do. But not just kidding. But so I'm with all that. But coaching you said you're the jump squad coach at Modern Day. That means triple jump, long jump, high jump, what have you. There's technique in that as well, not just trying to make the person stronger, less, way less, things like that, like physical health. It's a
Yeah.
technique driven thing. How do you,
Correct.
and you did take, you coached yourself, right? So you do know there's technique involved. This, how do you now output that into your program with now Modern Day?
Correct. And so that's where I was going with,
Okay.
because of that personal training piece, I was able to get to the result in a different way,
Hmm.
right? Then when I applied that into athlete movement, I realized athletes weren't moving and doing the things they wanted to do on the field because they didn't have the motor skills developed yet,
Okay.
right? They didn't have that neural connection.
Mhm.
And so from there, teaching those biomechanical movements is what I specialized in, right? And so once you have that set up, then the next part goes into, okay, let's be a coach. There's trainers and there's coaches. They're
That's right.
different, right?
Thank you for saying that. That's right.
Okay. So I took the trainer mentality and the athlete mentality, then put that into a mentorship mentality to make it to become a coach. So
Okay.
my job description has changed, right?
Hmm.
So I was able to do all that process before I even got to the high school levels, what essentially what I'm trying to say, right?
I'm hearing it more. Okay, I got you. I'm with you. I'm
And,
with you.
and so when I got there, I got there right when season started. I said, okay, I'm here. This is what's going to happen. And we changed everything. And one part that I didn't cover was Sheila Hudson was my triple jump coach at.
Oh, dude, come on. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that helps a lot of
Yeah.
things there for sure, for sure.
So technique, that's a
Yeah,
bonus,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So so when I got there, my biggest thing was these kids are out of shape. PT, get them in shape.
Right.
Now their mentality is starting to develop. Great. Let's mentor them. Now they need to learn how to put being in shape into technical movements.
Mhm.
Right. That's the trainer, the coach piece, right? So I put all these together and that's where the program kind of came together. And so at the end of the first year, I had great success. A lot of athletes had huge PRs. I'm talking about 3 to 4 feet in long triple jump, 2 feet in long. And um, Art Hinojosa and Ryan Finney were the two guys that stood out the most. They both improved. Ryan went from 40 feet to 46.8 in triple jump. Art went from 38 to 43.11. And so everyone else who was just there ended up just not making team next year. They either
Mhm.
quit or chose differently. And I had that turnover for about 3 years.
Mhm.
But there was a core group of about 6 athletes that stuck with it. And the freshman there was Kyra Coley and Jasmine Moss. Jasmine Moss broke the school record, 38 and a quarter.
Mhm.
And then Kyra Coley went 37.11. And so now I'm having athletes that are 34, 35s and up,
Right.
just, athletes over athletes. And so as that kept developing, it kept turning over and the marks kept going up because I was training the freshmen, the base training to build up to the varsity athletes. So I had this
Right.
program set, which was where the success started to really show. So in that 8 year time frame, I had 5 CIF champions. And I get it with relays, it's easier, but these were individual champions
Yeah, yeah.
that beat out, I had brother and sister that won the same triple jump the same year,
Oh, that's cool.
2018. Um, just yeah, there's a lot of stats there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I did was I put them into a college development program in high school.
Mhm.
So at that time too, I was doing the weight training, I was doing everything.
This is my own curiosity. I hear that from time to time, other sports as well, right? We trained our quarterbacks in a college. What does that mean? Because
Yeah.
when I asked that question, I coached at a fairly high level. I was in the SEC. I had long jump SEC champions and some kids that ended up running Olympics and things like that. So I was on top of my game for a guy who's only in it for 10 years. That's a little of my ego talking. Now I look back, I'm like, I knew nothing, but I had some good kids. I also coached high school a little bit at the beginning of my career. And what I wonder is now sitting in the seat that I sit now, where I talk to coaches daily, right? Whether it's through the podcast, through Twitter, obviously traditional means, phone calls, texts, etc. There are some really good coaches. There are a lot of good coaches.
Hmm.
When I say that, I mean every coach is good because what you're doing is amazing to me. When I'm talking about the technical side of it, like, oh, okay, you understand the event or events a little bit better. When I put them through a college type training, I don't know what that means because I don't know what the difference between, like, I've seen what I would consider not great, we'll use jumps as an example, not great jumps training on the high school level and college level and professional level, by the way. And I'm
Yeah,
just saying that's my opinion, right? Because it's like, well, if they're coaching professionals, they're doing something, they're doing good,
yeah.
right? Um, what did that mean maybe the better way and fairer way of asking this to you, Keenan, is what did that mean to you when you said I put them through a college type training, these high schoolers? What did that mean to you? When you say that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. What it means to me basically is I put them through just the type of technical work that they should be getting at the college level.
Okay.
We would have study film sessions that they should be having. A lot of high schools, I don't know if they do that or not,
Sure.
because you would have to have the knowledge to be able to say, here's a flaw, here's a solution.
Right, right, right.
Um, then they also put them just through like the rest, like putting in rest, putting in. So we didn't have to train 6 days. Most high schools will train every day plus
Mhm.
track meets. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't like that for me when I was doing, because I was doing, if you do the math, a Thursday dual meet, Saturday invitational, and another Thursday dual meet. Well, that's 3 track meets in 7 days.
Right, right, right,
So we look at college, traditionally, it's about 2 track meets per month.
right.
So what I would do is I would remove days and put in active rest. I would put in visualization. We would have recovery days. Like that would be part of our training.
So I don't. Here's where I struggle when people say that. And Keenan, I forgot to tell you this before we hit record. It's my podcast, so I get to push back where
Of course.
I do it respectfully, Keenan. You're
Yeah.
not wrong in what you're saying. Don't hear me
Uh-huh.
saying that. These are actually. It's kind of a selfish for me. It's like, oh, I'm curious. So this is just me. Like, I want to become better and understand things more. So here's where I push back on what you just said. I wouldn't call the examples you just gave college training necessarily because there are plenty of colleges who are also not doing what you just the examples you just gave. I just call it good coaching. So I don't care if it's the eighth grader, or I'm sorry, the 8-year-old kid who's learning long jump, triple jump, and doing film sessions, and smartly only does maybe one meet a week. That's its own.
Mhm.
Every coach gets upset. Every coach, that's a strong word. A lot of coaches that I talk to are upset about these Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday type meets, but yet we're still doing them. So I don't understand, like, why we're all upset about it. Stop doing it. Just do the weekend ones. All right. So see, soapbox again. Okay. I'm going to title this podcast Mike's Soapbox featuring Keinan Briggs. That's what this is going to be. So whether it's an eighth grader or 8-year-old who only does one meet a week and does film studies, or a 11th grader or a junior in college, that's or a professional, that's not college or elite training. That's just good training. That's where I always kind of,
Yeah.
it's a little semantics. I know you're kind of laughing at me, Keenan. That's good.
Oh
I
no,
need
it's good. Yeah.
it's a little semantic, but here's what I don't like about it. Here's why I kind of push back. Like, it's not college level training. It's just good training. Is I don't like the pedestal of like, oh, well, it's a college coach. They know everything. They don't. There's plenty and the good ones admit they don't know everything. And it's less about the college coach of knowing, quote unquote, knowing everything. It's more about well, then that means you're saying, and I'm not saying you, that type of thought philosophy is inferring that high school coaches are not very good coaches, and that is also absolutely not true. You're a good example of that, Keenan, but
Yeah.
there are other great examples of high school coaches that could coach me in circles for crying out loud. So that's all I'm kind of getting at, Keenan. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's more of I'm using these words because it's more specifically college prep for preparing them for
Yeah.
college, not college training.
Okay. Now I love that. That to
Yeah.
me, like, as soon as you said college prep, I'm like, oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
preparing them for what
Correct.
the next level might be. I love that, Keenan. That
Yeah.
that that resonates. That doesn't put down a high school coach, nor
Correct.
irresponsibly uplift a college coach. That I
Correct.
love that. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
we've got you to change your language. You're going to say college prep from
No,
now on.
it
Good.
was
Keep
college
going.
prep the whole time.
Yeah. 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 Got it.
So, but from there, it's um, yes, there's a lot of layers to it. So the
Hmm.
goal is to have them prepared for whenever they go to the next level,
Yeah,
they're already in that rhythm of what to expect. Same thing with SAT preps. You're
it's
preparing.
exactly right. I love this. Okay.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we're in sync now. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
And so, and another layer of that, it's parents don't know the verbiage. So a college prep
That's a good
team
point. That's a good point.
allows them to connect dots,
That's a
right?
great point. Great point.
Um,
So how long were you at modern day,
Modern day.
modern day? How long were you at modern day?
So from 11 to 19, those seasons, but I was
How
there for track from 12 to 19.
how did you're having success obviously with your jumpers? How did meshing with the other coaches and therefore there are other athletes or even sharing athletes? Your jumpers probably also sprinted and hurdled for the sprints hurdles coach or relays things like that. How are you meshing with the other staff?
I was actually able to retain a lot of the athletes that I had,
Mm-hmm.
which is harder to do.
100%. This is
Um,
freaking 14 to 18-year-old kids. I
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And the reason for it is this is something I made up in my mind
Mhm.
that there are developing athletes, then there's don't mess it up athletes.
Sure.
So, for example, we had a pole vaulter that was really good, and she was like, "I want to do the 100," and the coaches were like, "No, you're not running. You're doing pole vault. You're going to continue doing pole vault."
Right.
So in my mind, if you make an athlete develop an athlete to be so good that it's like we don't want to mess something up, then that it kind of helps keep the athlete's rhythm and consistency with their training.
Mhm.
Because you might have two amazing coaches with two different philosophies. One coach may say we need to do hard sprints every single Monday, but then you have another coach that says we had 18 jumps on Saturday.
Yep.
Monday isn't the best day to sprint,
What
and that
what
class is
what
there.
you just described is the thing that probably holds back most multi combined event athletes, heptathletes, decathletes,
Mhm.
is it's very rare. It should be more common that a multi-coach coaches all the events. All 10 decathlon events. I think of like the Great Harry Mare and people like that. It's usually parceled out. You have one coach that works with the sprints hurdles portion of the decathlon or heptathlon. You have a pole vault coach. Maybe you have a long triple jump coach. Maybe you have a high jump coach. Maybe somehow a distance guy gets or disc, throws, right? So we have to throw, shot, things like that. And the thing that hurts decathletes the most when it's that way is if the coaches can't communicate. That
Yeah.
is 101 for combined events coaching. If you're going to do it this way, if you're going to have coaching by committee, you guys and gals better be talking daily because you're exactly right. Monday you have a hard workout and then you go to the throws and they decide to have a hard workout. And then Wednesday you go to the jumps and they have a hard workout. And then Thursday you go to pole vault and they have a hard workout. Well, guess what happens to the athlete? They break. Yeah, you're exactly right. Communication between the coaching staffs is paramount if that
Yeah.
athlete is going to have success. Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah. The biggest solution to that is having a governing piece to the decision making.
You mean like one person who's going to be the guide keeper of that? You're not doing this today. Sorry, boss. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. This
Yeah.
this chess master, if you will. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm a
Hmm.
big person on whenever there's an issue, here's a solution or
Hmm.
an idea for a solution,
Hmm.
right? So I was a hurdler jumper. So I would jump and run different days. Now I'm back into 6 days of training,
Right.
right? So when jumpers are in the pool doing pool workout recovery, I'm doing repeat 150s and 200s. And it's like that was hurting my body.
Right. Absolutely.
So when it comes to the high school level, that was recognized conversation in the beginning. I
Hmm.
said, hey, I need to be the head coach for the jump team,
Right.
so I can have the governing decisions on the primary jumpers. And so anyone who's not a primary jumper, then, you know, what will make everything work for the kids. So um, that worked out, was great teamwork with that process.
Yep.
And then it got to the point to where I had 50 athletes, I had 50 jumpers because they're
Wow.
like jumping is cool to do because there's success there,
Right.
right? And then Rick saw that there was a level of durability from the athletes
Mm.
to where the jumper athletes would now start to fill in with the relays
Mm.
and support them. And we agreed that okay, I would take some of the training athletes and say like, let me get them developing too. So
Mhm.
we have even more bodies to work with that are ready to go.
Mhm.
And that's where it started to kind of be this where I would handle all the off-season stuff.
Yeah.
Season allowed the coaches to like have time off, and then show up and the kids already have that base training
Yeah.
set. So it worked out great with that process. Um, yeah, so that was kind of that how that worked out with the athletes.
So you said that was through 2019. What happens next? Where do we go next?
So 2019, um, I guess I can be transparent. So because of um, the communication with the athletes, I was with the athletes pretty much all year round because I was able to create off-season trainings with the kids.
Mhm.
So we were together through the summer, all the whole season, and and a couple of the athletes felt really close to me, just saw every coaches. And there were a couple that felt that they just didn't mesh with the old school style of coaching.
Mhm.
Pretty sure you and I, coach would yell at you to get you motivated. Nowadays, from my experience, yelling at the kids triggers them in a certain way
Sure.
and don't work out. So there was miscommunication in that process. I won't go into too much detail. I don't think it's important on this one.
Yeah.
But either way, Mater Day stopped 2020
Okay.
along the world and everything.
Mhm.
But I was still able to keep my club team training at Mater Day. So I'm still there.
So when did the club actually start? Because that's I was kind of
Yeah,
wondering when Leap Squad, which
yeah.
is a great name by the way,
Thank you.
when that actually started.
Deep Scar started in 2012.
Okay, all right. So it's been
There's a lot
going
of
for a
overlap
bit.
in all these stories. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of
No, I know that's what's
overlap.
confusing me,
Yeah.
Keenan. I'm not smart enough for this stuff. I need very simple lines and cuts. Okay, perfect. So after things happen in modern day, the club is already there. So it's just, are we building the club now? Are we focused on the club 100% at this point?
Yeah, yeah. So once that was done, I was like, let me find another school. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm a head coach already. I've
Right.
been a head coach. I have huge success with athletes, top three in the US for U20, all those things. Like,
Mhm.
I want to keep this going. So then I already had a virtual team working. It was at 2015, 16 that I had virtual athletes from Canada and all over.
Oh,
And so once COVID hit, I was like, let me launch the virtual team, relaunch that, and then also build up my in-person team. And so that's where in-person team doubled in size, went up to about 60 to 70 athletes. And then you add at that time, another four virtual team athletes.
yeah.
So I'm working with them, do Zoom, whatever else, writing programs for them. And then just the results kept being consistent.
Mm.
So they were consistent in person already, but now it was virtual and the club team. Now it's only 2 days of practice, and the virtual team is all virtual, and the results were the exact same, if not more.
Right.
And so since that 2021, it's just been growing every single year, like multiplying each year. Yeah.
What is what are your biggest struggles or differences as a club coach? You've done high school coaching, you've been a high school and college athlete, so you've seen, what those type of programs, whether it's, what time, when practice can start and when it does, I'm talking about the year, not just the day, right?
Yeah.
In college, I can go fall and spring. High school, I'm typically in the spring, things like that.
Mhm.
For a club, you have different strengths and weaknesses and struggles and advances. Talk to me about the club. I've never owned a club. I know
Oh,
a few club owners, of course, but I'm just curious about that side of track and field because it's grown. It's
yeah.
huge. I mean, whether you like clubs or not, you're gonna have to deal with them. They're out there. That's a
Yeah.
part of our sport.
Yeah. The club space, it's there's no rules. You
Okay.
know, um, you don't have to be a coach. You can just be a parent that just puts the
Mhm,
kids together and just go. So you have that level of coaching.
mhm,
Then you have coaching levels that,
mhm,
where I have experience coming in, right? Um, there's no real rules other than knowing the high school rules. So a lot of club coaches get in the way of high school because they haven't read the CIF handbook
mhm.
and understand you can't be with kids in this. If they're in season, they can't run with their club
Right,
because it's going to suspend them for a certain amount of time.
right.
There's even if you have a club, you can't take them through the dead period and still work with them if you're also their high school coach. Like there's
Mm,
a lot of rules that are in there that a lot of coaches miss,
mhm,
and that's where the kind of clash kind of happens between high school and club.
mhm, mhm.
But I truly feel that the athletes who are getting additional resources are going to be able to do or have more resources to do better.
Mhm.
Only if there's a governing faculty of what the season looks like. It always comes down to who's
Okay.
driving this ship.
All right, let's talk about that. That's great. I love that you have that verbiage that helps with this next year because we've had some amazing. Danny McCray from down in Texas has been on the show. He doesn't even call himself a club coach, which I love, but he's not. He's a non-high school coach. Working with kids, and so I get both sides of it, right? Like, and one of my goals, and again, in the passions that I have for uplifting coaches, is communication. We go back to talking about that with like combined event athletes, right? And it's not. I don't it's going to sound weird. I don't care about like I'm not here to uplift to help with the communication of coaching the athlete. There's other great avenues for that. I'm here about the coaches. So I like to talk a lot about the disagreements of a college coach and high school coaches, like where there's a clash. Like how do we talk about there are things you're a high school coach, you don't like when a college coach doesn't call you during the recruiting process, they only talk to the kid. Well, let's talk about that. Here's some reasons why the college coaches don't do that. And a college coach, you don't like that the high school coach isn't an expert long jump, triple jump coach. Well, hey, that high school coach is also teaching 8 hours a day and has
Yeah.
a family, and they can't get to all the clinics, and they have other, they're coaching for a different motivation than you are. You're in college, you're coaching there because your motivation is to, get real deep into track and field. And so the same clash is happening between it is happening between college and club as well, but the
Yep.
majority of the disagreements are club and high school.
Correct.
Now, in most states, I assume there is some rule of in season whether you can or cannot compete with an outside coach. However, there is no rule that says you can't go train with a club. That's private stuff. That's if mom and dad wants to pay for it, they can do it
Yeah.
in the middle of the track season, right? How do we, and maybe the better way to ask it is, how have you? And I appreciate your transparency, so I feel like I'm going to get a real, like, authentic answer. Like, yeah, maybe I don't do a good job, Mike. How do you handle the that governing body, that chess master, with the high school coach? Because all your kids, this is an assumption, all your kids have a high school coach,
Mm.
who all have different degrees of motivation for coaching. Some will be like, oh man, thank God you get to
Yeah.
go to Keinan. I don't know anything. I don't want to know anything. I'm trying to grade my math class, and then you have others, assumably, and through the years have coaches that are maybe just as good. And if you can drop your bad ego, better than you, that are like Keinan. They probably wouldn't even talk to you. Be like, kid, this I know more than this guy. What are you doing? Just stay with me, and we'll be fine. How do you handle that communication and different levels of motivation of coaching, and even the ego side of all of this too? How do you do that?
Yeah. A lot of layers to that.
Yeah,
This can, there
yeah,
we go.
a lot of layers. Yep.
Um, the first layer is stay consistent with the brand.
Hmm.
Whatever your brand is. I don't mean as in like company, as in if you're a coach that believes in kids first, then always default on that. And that will always show through everything that you do.
Love that.
So that's number one. So always stay true to the LEAP mentality. So LEAP stands for lead, elevate, achieve, and prevail. Those are the
Oh,
four pillars.
hold on. What was it?
Lead,
Yep.
elevate,
Yep.
achieve,
Okay.
and prevail. So we're leaders in our community. We elevate our standards, achieve all goals we set for ourselves, and prevail through all types of adversity. So that's always, if I have questions, I default and ask the brand. And the brand always tells me the best answer.
Love that.
So now from there, the conflicts that I always run into is I have, like you said, coaches that are like, hey, we don't have a jump coach. Like, go with Coach Briggs and we'll run them here. We're good to go.
Yeah.
All right. Then I had the extreme, which is don't go to that coach, which is, I get it. I 100% get it. It's not me. It's not the coach's decision. The governing faculty is the parent.
Mm.
And so the parent has this belief system, which is old school belief system, which is the coaches know best, which 99% of the time the coaches do because there's experience there, there's everything there. But when it comes down to the parents are the ones that put the kids in the situations that they're in. The parents are the ones that hired this personal trainer or that hired this club team or that brought in this, speed coach that's a distraction towards the high school team. right? The parents are the ones that have the kid in club volleyball all year round, and the kid wants to do track. Now the kid's doing volleyball and track because they're paying bills over here too, So the parents are a very important piece of this process. And so with that, it trickles down to the kid because the kid's saying, "Mom, Dad, I want to get faster." I feel like I'm not getting fast enough with my high school coach, because I'm comparing because nowadays, my phone, I can take what you're saying right now and double check and fact
That's
check that,
right. That's right.
as I think I should be running, flying 30s and not 150s. And if the coach can't articulate and be transparent on this is the vision, this is the reason why, this is how, then it creates confliction
Yeah, tension. Yeah.
between the tension between the two.
Hmm.
And then that kid then says, well, I can go to that coach and get what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And then now it becomes this whole process that goes on and off, right? So I never get in between the coaches and the athletes. I just educate the athletes on understand that if you're here, I need to know everything that you're doing, but also you have to communicate with your coach that you're coming here. So the coach understands what's happening. Because ultimately, I understand too, when I was a high school coach, I had a handful of kids that wanted to do upper training. Because like high jump has been it's on the tier, it's number three between long and triple. It's like triple, long, and then high jump. So I had high jumpers that were like, I need more high jump because I had 50 kids and I was the only coach,
Right.
So I said, hey, I will watch every jump when you're on varsity. If you're not, teammates will work with you. So they felt that they weren't getting enough with the high jump.
Hmm.
So then they went out and got high jump coaches. So I was like, okay, then that affects the training here.
But by the way, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I was just struck by that what you just said there. No judgment at all.
Mhm.
But when you said, hey, you're high jumpers, if you're not on varsity, you're gonna have to get help from your teammates, things like that.
Mhm.
That is exactly what I mean when I say when a college coach says, "Oh, look at Keenan. If he would just do more with high jumper," and it's like, bro, he's got 50 athletes, and the
Yeah.
majority are long and triple. By the way, that's his personal passion from background. He's
Mhm.
doing. When you just described that, I know some people listening were like, "Oh, wait a
Yep.
minute. Here's this big club coach, and what do you mean he's letting the high jump?" And it's like you were doing. From what I can
Mhm.
tell from the way you're telling the story and from how I now know you a little bit, you were doing the best you could. Was it perfect? No. By the way, is there a perfect situation? I don't think so. You were doing the absolute best for the majority of the kids. So I just know somebody was like, "Oh, there was
Yep.
a judgment there," and it's like, no, I could have. Would I have done it differently? Maybe. I probably wouldn't have had as many athletes. That's
Yeah.
how I would have done it. So I sorry to interrupt you. I just thought that was a good point of just like, hey, you were as the high school coach in that example, you were doing the absolute best you can. Bravo. No judgment should have come down from anybody in that situation. But please continue.
Received. Thank you. And so I didn't combat it because I was like, I understand what you're ultimately looking for.
Right.
And so self-reflection is if I can't offer this service at the level that he's looking for, then who am I to get in the way of that?
So have
Right.
you, as a club coach, have you had a talk with a parent and say, hey, okay, so let me tell me more about your coach, or maybe you knew about him because it's in the area and stuff like that, and you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not the right person for that. That coach is doing a great job, and because you're also playing baseball or what, all the different factors that play in all this, I'm not sure. I don't think necessarily you should come to my club. Have you ever had that conversation?
All the time.
Is that right?
All
That's
the time.
hard. That's hard, right? Because let's be honest, you're a club coach. You need the money. You need the guy the parent to pay you. So that's
It
hard.
it as a trainer, the trainer needs the money. But I'm an entrepreneur. Like I've coached full time. So I don't need the money, right? Because my brand is where I always go off of. And so it's like if a kid's coming to me saying, hey, I have 7-on-7, I have football, this and that, and I say, okay, well, the demands from this program twice a week and also the days of recovery, that doesn't fit the schedule for our program.
Hmm.
So this program isn't the best for you.
Hmm.
Like I have no problem saying that. Because at the end of the day, it's helping the kid. The
Hmm.
kid's the one that's going to, right? And if they choose to go off and still do 30 hours of training per week and they're 12, college is going to be more hours of training. It's going to be a lot more.
Hmm.
So, like this is year 21 for me. So I can't say everything, but I've seen a lot of different examples.
Right.
And the times that I think I'm going to be right, I'm kind of right. And it sucks to see the kids burn out.
Mhm.
But again, the parents have their perspective, which is why I'm like, how do we resolve this is by educating the parents on the different perspectives and how layouts may come out. But I guess to stay on topic, because I'm also a tangent person,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
we're good. We're good.
But,
I'm enjoying this.
but how I handle, that piece is I had an athlete who was a national champion for the multis. I don't teach multis. I specialize in getting you the best that you can be in each individual event, one at a time. All right. So let's master your long jump versus have you top 15 in the US. The long jump gets you to top one. And then when that's done, we add in the high jump and whatever, whatever, whatever. And so that athlete was doing a lot. And I was like, okay, well, we got to back him off because we're not adding in. There's hurdle, there's rounds of all these events that takes them from 3 events to 7, you know. So I'm still going on a tangent. Feel like I'm coming back, coming
You're
back.
good. You're good, bro.
So um, at the end of the day, what I introduced to the program is when athletes are with our program for the first year, then it's let this program work itself out. And then if you feel that we're not meeting their expectations, then we'll look at other resources. That's kind of how I put that. And I have the freedom to because I'm a club coach versus a high
Mhm.
school coach may say, you know what, I had a kid who came here, who was a best kid, went to a private gym with this one guy, and the kid kept coming hurt every single day at practice. And I understand that as well. And now it's like, okay, well, it's hard to coach you because you're being trained. And now the development piece can't come in there. So there's no answer for it.
Yeah.
It's a headache. And what I've done is I've shown that you can trust Leap Squad because every year I have 70 athletes, 60, 70 athletes, and they're all always the best of their program and they're healthy. I had 5 soft tissue injuries in the past 10, 13 years throughout the season, and none of them have been to a point to where they couldn't finish competing.
It's a great point about your roster numbers because I was going to say, how do you quantify that people can trust you and things like that? Because you can say everything. It's kind of the drawback of everybody having a podcast. We can say everything we want. It's what we do, our actions that that actually mean something. But when you said about your roster, I was like, oh well, a lot of people are trusting you every year. Like that says a lot to me. It's like no matter what you say, if only 5 kids choose to actually come to your club, it's like, well, somebody's sniffing something out. It ain't working. So your roster size. So how do we? I continue to want to like demystify this club versus high school coach thing, and some of it is, there is always going to be, in a field of 100 club coaches and 100 high school coaches, there is going to be some percentage, small, of both of those groups that high ego, high bad ego. I am the best. Everybody should just get out of my way. And when those two, again, small percentages of each of those groups get involved, that's where problems happen. If a high school coach has a high ego of I'm the best in the world, if there are no clubs around, well, then they never get into conflict. But if they're in a situation where there are other clubs, there's going to be automatic conflict. And if there's a club that is headed up by another person who has a high bad ego, well, now we get the war of like, and then we go with these big generalizations of all club coaches are the devil. And then we reverse and say all high school coaches are the devil, and it's
Yeah.
this big pointing finger. So there's a little bit of like, yeah, I want to help bring these groups together, but it's also like, oh, but those groups are made of individuals, and you're not going to solve that through any generalization and communication. That has to go one on one.
Yeah.
So all that to say, what is your best advice to high school coaches? They get a kid that comes to and says, hey, I heard about this club, and we're going general, like not just jumps in your club, like just in general any club. I want to be the best long jumper I can for you, coach, or whatever event they do. And so I just we're working hard. I'm not condemning you at all, high school coach. I just want to go with this guy. They got a facility, and so I can go jump on the weekends or whatever. What's your best advice for that high school coach? Should they call the club coach? Should they just bless it and say, make sure hopefully they know the rules, or what a coach should do in that situation? A high school coach should do in that situation.
Well, I can answer from both sides. So, as a high school coach, if if you feel that, well, one, do the research on that coach. That's like number one. And let it be known to the kid that you're doing the research on the coach.
Okay.
What that does for the kid is it tells the kid that you're open to at least hearing the perspectives.
I like
If
that.
you don't, then the kid just says, I'm going anyway because you don't trust me, and I think I
Mm,
have the best decision for myself. Right? Um, Second part is listen to the feedback and ask the kid what's missing from this program that you're getting from that program.
mm,
That also allows you to figure out, do you have the capacity to add this to your program or not? Okay. And then from there, it'll come down to the kid's going to go there anyway. If they are going to go there anyway, how do I keep control of this team?
mhm.
Because if you have one kid that goes to a club team and does well, it implies that your program isn't good enough. So this is what I've been trying to create with a lot of teams is make like a fake vendor list of approved club teams that you
Oh.
approve of
Mhm.
that you can work with,
Mhm.
that kids are going to go anyway, but they have an open line of communication that at least makes you feel safer. Now, the school district will never say will allow that, right? But if the kids are going to go regardless, and you kind of figure that out, then that's the best way to kind of work through it. Um, that's an option, you know. The other option from the club team is to make sure that they tell the athletes to communicate with the coaches what's happening.
Mhm.
And that at least creates some conversation.
When you say what's happening, you talking about the training so that they can modify or be aware so they know of what's going on there?
Yeah, because I had a virtual athlete where his coach basically said, "We're going to train today," and there's a full training, box jumps, all this training stuff, the day before a track meet, a
Hmm.
jump, and I'm like, oh, from my perception, my philosophy, that isn't the best thing to do.
Sure, sure.
Know? And so now he's going back saying I shouldn't jump. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm
Yeah.
that's not what I'm telling you to tell him. I'm telling him just, your learning philosophy, trying to develop a process and have that conversation. So yeah,
I know you're going to say it depends. I just know it.
I'll try
Who,
to give you.
who should, because I'm asking a very definitive answer or question here. Who should be the at least default lead, the high school coach or the club coach? I have my thoughts here. In your eyes, and knowing you're biased, right? You're a club coach. I know you've been a high school coach, but you're a club coach. Who do you think should be the default lead?
Club to start
Okay.
based on experience, resume,
Okay.
proof.
There's a qualifier there. I believe that. Yeah. Because I think that's where maybe high school coaches, like I'm kind of putting myself in the high school coaches' shoes, right? I've got a squad of 40 to 100, doesn't matter, the whole team. And out of all the different little groups, right? So jumps, throws, distance, sprints, whatnot. I've got maybe one sprinter that goes to a club, and I got a jumper over here, or maybe I got three jumpers over here and one thrower over here, things like that. I'm still responsible for this team. So as it relates to whatever this regular schedule is, and then for sure, the most important part, the championship season, so regionals and state meet. How do I, I've got this job? They're in high school. They're high schoolers first. How
Mhm.
do I? You're telling me they shouldn't do this meet, Keenan, but I think this is the meet that has to be it's the right meet for to know where we are in our training to get ready for districts in 2 weeks or whatnot. And by the way, it's not just you, Keenan, because now I've got this throws club over here, coach, that's telling me this stuff, and I've got this sprint guy, and this dist, and Oh, and by the way, there's still this big umbrella of parents that have their own ideas of
Mhm.
what should and should not be done. I'm the worst parent. I was a former coach. I hope my kid doesn't do track in high school because I'm like, oh, those poor high school coaches. If they ain't doing what I think's right, I hope I can hold back and not tell them, right? My kid's throwing, which is perfect because I know nothing about throws right now. So stay there, son. Um, so I think when you say that, I hear a high school coach being, dude,
Mhm.
you're getting ready for the summer. That's where your competitions happen and your championships. Let me do my thing.
Yeah.
I need you to talk to me. Like, hey, I'm going to do, like, I'm the high school coach. I'm going to do plyos on Monday. So on Tuesday, when Joey comes to you, don't do plyos, bro. If you know what you're doing, don't do plyos on that, right? That's where
Yeah.
I think a lot of tensions happen.
Yeah, 100%. Because, the kid's wearing the high school jersey, not the club jersey
That's right.
during.
That's right.
So that's where on paper it should be the high school coach, right? But then that's where these variables come in of the high school coach is doing his or her job. And if a club coach understands this process, that would be great to cross-reference information to say, hey, for the jumpers, here's their calendar. For sprinters, here's this. But if you're only for jumps, then it's okay. Here's calendars that we would like, and then you do what you want to do. So
Mhm.
I give it all to the coaches, and we'll work around what's happening. So for example, I had an athlete, hurdler, that was doing all the hurdle running, but never technical stuff, and would come to our practice just to watch, to assistant coaches, to be supportive, to learn. Some days we do block starts, this and that, and we realize, okay, your step count is off. So let's get you to, 21 for the first hurdle, then and you're gonna be on the left leg, on the wrong leg on this other hurdle. We figured that part out. She dropped a second at CI prelims, CI final dropped another second, dropped 2 seconds in the last 2 weeks. And it wasn't that we trained her and it's all us. It was as a group, the multiple levels of information was able to see a new perspective that added to that. And she wore the high school jersey.
Mhm.
So the high school, so my goal, I can speak for myself, is to make any athletes that are part of our club team and do in high school the best high school athlete they can be for their team.
I think a lot of these issues that was great, Keenan, and applaud you for that attitude and helping coaches like that. Because I think, because I see the reverse of it too. Maybe I'll say it for you, putting words in your mouth there a little bit. Yeah, Mike. But when that coach is the type of coach that's going to do plyos the day before a meet, I should be the lead because they should not do that. And really, what this comes down to is I've said it many times. Ego is not bad. Bad ego is bad. And when it comes to like ownership of athletes, which I know some great coaches that will say, my team, my athlete, my jumper, and I just cringe. It's like they're not.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the only one who coaches them. There's so much that goes into it, from parents to teachers to the kid's own mentality. Uh, it's not they're on your team. Maybe it's your team, maybe it's the team if you're the head coach, but it's this possessiveness of athletes. It's this Keenan wants to be able to say he had all these kids that won state titles. He's the club coach, and the high school coaches, well, I want to say that I'm the one who coached all these state titles and things like that. It's this possessiveness, and I just don't know how, because possessiveness is also not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like when you talk about my spouse, my wife, or my husband, I want to do well for them because they're my wife or my spouse and things like that. Like those are good things that make you want to be better and learn more and coach better and be a better spouse and things like that. It's funny with athletics and then with high school, even more so high school athletes. It's this possessiveness. Is I want to say my ego, my self-worth is built on me being able to say that was my athlete. I did that. I know they work. They go to that high school, but if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have done that. And that's
Yeah.
who ultimately who loses on that.
Yep. It's the
The kid,
kid.
the kid, the kid. All this, one of the things, back on my soapbox, Keenan. When I hear coaches say, I do it for the kids, I love that. And I think every coach would say that. If I were to survey a thousand coaches, do you do it for the kids? I do it for the kids. And then like on the college level, we'll get mad that they transfer. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought you were doing it for the kids. So if the kid
Yeah.
transfers, if that's better for the kid, good
Yeah.
job. Wait a minute, I thought you did it for the kids. If I'm a high school coach, I do it for the kids. Okay, you admittedly are weaker in coaching the jumps. Then why are you upset they go to Keenan's club? They're getting better coached. I thought you did it for the kids. And
Yeah.
Keenan, you're like, I do it for the kids. I'm like, all right, then you do it for the kids. Then why can't they enjoy a team full team atmosphere of the high school and wearing the team jersey, and that's a special thing. Well, I
Yeah.
thought you did it for the kid. It's this real interesting thing. One side, I do it for the kids, and then actions sometimes are not aligning up there.
Yeah. It's tough, and it's almost like no matter how long you talk about the conversation, there's always going to be that contradictory. I mean, each side is just, you know, like one, I believe all track and field coaches are very competitive. We're just competitive because we're taught to be competitive.
Yeah.
And I think because the quote individual sport like philosophy
Mhm.
goes into I have a program. I gotta hide it from everyone so I can get these athletes to develop. So it's my program. I did it.
Interesting.
So, and in that concept is where again the kids are hurt because now there's a kid that somewhere else that couldn't get to your school that's not getting the benefit of your coaching.
Hmm.
Which is why I was like, okay, in high school we were the top jumpers in our league, and I was like, man, there's other kids that go to other schools that could do so well, but then they're on my club team. So my kids were like, you're coaching the competition. I'm saying I'm coaching all the kids
Hmm.
because if they come to me, I'm going to say yes if they fit the requirements of the program, you know?
I wonder if these issues happen in other sports. Like I think about volleyball because I know volleyball is a big year-round club is a huge thing in volleyball. Like I mean, volleyball might be my favorite sport behind track and college football. Um, I've heard it said before, if you don't play club volleyball in high school, you can't get recruited. I guess that's where all the recruiting happens. I wonder if there's like this tension between a high school volleyball coach and the club, all the club coaches that are in their area. If there's like this, what do you mean you coach so many high school all state? You're a club. You didn't do that. I did that. And then it's like your setter's like, yeah, but I got better because I was at this club. I just wonder if other sport, I don't, I've heard of like quarterback camps and gurus and stuff like that. I wonder if like as a high school football coach, like, oh, you don't need to go work with that
Yeah.
quarterback guru. I'm your coach. I'll coach you. I don't know. I
Yeah.
wonder about other sports.
It sounds weird in that context, right? It
Right?
sounds weird to be a teacher and say, you're going to a tutor for math. Oh,
Oh,
you know what?
oh, dude, when you
No,
say
because
that, dude,
that math tutor is going to really tell you some different strategies, and that's not fitting the structure that we have here in the country.
no, bro, that's you just said that, and that actually blew my mind because no one would say that. The math
No,
teacher would be like, "Oh, you're going to math tutor. Good, you're getting extra work."
correct.
But in track and maybe other sports, we go, wait, you're going to like it's automatic. Like you're going to club coach. Why are you going to club coach?
Mhm.
Wow,
And I think it starts to dilute a little bit when
interesting.
it's sports where it's normal to, because I play football and basketball. Football, what do you do? Go to practice? What's next? Go to speed coach, go to the weight room, right? The kids who are bigger and stronger are the ones who go to a specific weight training guru that understands, you know, movements in the actual weight room, right? All these little pieces, you know. But then with track, it's like I have a jump coach here and a jump coach there, and it's like you can't have two jump coaches. And the reality is you can't because you're not just teaching, it's a philosophy that's being taught. So if you were to put the track conflicts that we have into basketball terms, it'd be like Rip Paterno, and that's football, but the Louisville coach, right, teaching his offense, and the offense is being ran different at JV, right? When it comes to basketball and football, it's typically the same playbooks all the way down, different coaches all the way down. And so, but when it comes to the training piece, they don't care where you go. Hey,
Yeah.
you're not fast enough, go get faster, come back for next practice. But in track, it's almost like it needs to be in that same house. But when kids go outside, then it seems like it's blasphemy. You should never.
Yeah.
But
That's really interesting. Keenan, I have these conversations every day. These are almost always. I bet you, if you look at all of our interviews with high school coaches and club coaches, this topic comes up.
yeah.
And I tell you, it kind of blew my mind a little bit with the tutor
Mm.
analogy. That really because I can't imagine. Like I'd be mad at my high school math teacher that got upset or was jealous because I took my kid to a math tutor. I'd be like, what do you mean you're upset that I'm getting extra help? Now I know there's a little, I don't know. There's mental fatigue. I was about to say there's something with athleticism, like, well, you could hurt a kid if you do high level work every day with no rest, things like that. But So there's a little bit difference in that sense, but that really kind of like I can't wait for my next high school coach
Mhm.
interview because when we invariably get to this topic, I'm like, hey, but what about your teacher? What about I'm going to bring that. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. All right, Keenan, as we wrap up, we're getting near the end of our time here. What else? What else didn't I ask you, man? This is hey, I sometimes
Yeah.
these interviews like this feel maybe you guys listening you feel like it's just off the rails here. It does take first of all I do want to publicly say before we start wrapping up here, Keenan, it takes a special person to have this type of conversation, especially with a stranger. It'd be different if me and you were homeboys for a decade plus, and it's like, well, it's just our conversation. Here we go. Here's Mike with his soapbox crap. So I do very much appreciate your openness and candor to having these conversations and being pushed and pushed back on in certain terms. So grateful. Even again, just selfishly that I've become better from having a conversation like this. So truly grateful for that. And I do believe that that type of conversation, and again, your background and journey is very important for people listening to see that as well. So just want to before I
Thank
even forget, just want to say I appreciate that, and it says a lot about you and your character in regards to having those conversations again with a stranger. That's maybe we should have more conversations with strangers out there, and we'd all be better people. So I do appreciate that. So as we wrap up, though, Keenan, what else? What else? What am I missing? Are you still doing the club now? Are there ambitions to go back and coach high school at all? Is there ambitions to coach college one day? Where are we at as you kind of stare the 2025 in the future in the face? What are you thinking about career wise?
I'm in it, living the dream. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. I'm creating avenues for parents, athletes, and coaches. Just continuing to scale that. I have over 1,000+ videos on YouTube teaching these
I was
concepts.
okay. I'm glad you said because I was going to ask. I'm like, knowing hearing your story and the impact of teaching from Athletic Republica and formal teaching, that kinesiology teacher, things like that. Are you doing anything education wise? That's exactly what I was going to ask. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so what came from the academy was I would get asked questions like, "Hey, you beat our kids, and it was for your kids. Like, what's happening?" Or I tried one of your drills, and how did you set the drill up? So I was like, let me just automate this whole process because I can't answer every email, every phone call. So I have a long jump, triple jump virtual training course that explains everything for athletes and coaches. I've had a lot of success with drills that I've done with for coaches to help resolve issues. Some coaches say, "Hey, I don't know, I don't have the eye for it," but that video explained it, so I can teach it to my kids. So that's the teaching part. I have programs for both coaches and athletes, and then coming out in the next couple of months, I have a book coming out for parents on their role as managers, how to raise athletes,
Oh, wow.
right? So the normal piece is, let's say you and I are like, okay, we got kids, they're gonna just do what we know because that's where I'm at already. I'm on
Yep.
the track, you're on the.
Yep.
And so, but the reality is their experience that they have with their coaches is you hired the coaches. What if you had a vetting process for the coaches before you even allowed them to have any interaction with your kid? Then you're going to qualify these coaches in a certain way that gives a certain level of quality in their training, right? What if you prefer no yelling on a football team? Well, there's only one team in the area. What does that mean? Well, you're going to get yelled at. Well, then what does that do to your child? You know?
Right.
So what I've done with the academy is I have from training, from peak performance, is mentally how to perceive wins, losses, adversity. I have classes in that specific area. Specific technical like P's and Q's up the jumps. I have those things. I have everything. So the academy has all those workshops
So
and
so where do I find that? Do I go on YouTube? Do I just Google search? There's a website. Where do I go to find this information?
yeah, it's leapsquadacademy.com.
Okay.
And that's where like the courses are going to be. But you can also go to YouTube. Those videos are free, just to kind of pick and choose the videos you
Mhm.
might be looking for. But the jump course is in order from beginning to end. So there's no trying to find, a bunch of random videos, different philosophies, things like that.
And are you speaking at clinics? What else are you doing? You're writing a book. I mean, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
that's hard enough, bro. That's a
Yeah.
bravo to you for that. What else are you doing education wise? I love that. I'm a huge coaching education advocate. So anything that is
Yeah.
in this avenue really is great for me.
No clinics set for this year,
Mhm.
but I was requested for LA 84. It doesn't work out time-wise.
Mhm.
But I've done the Minnesota Coaches Convention.
Yeah.
I've done Minnesota, Missouri.
Yeah.
Uh, Nothing local yet, but I mean, I do it anyway on my
Yeah.
social,
Yeah.
you
What
know,
what
but
what is what is local anymore? I had someone say something
yeah,
today about this California kid who fit in at Texas, and I'm like, yeah, I know there are some different cultures and stuff a little bit, but I mean, there's plenty of people in Texas who are not from Texas. There's plenty of people, I don't get this like we prejudice down to the state level for crowds. Like, man, it's first of all, it's an artificial line, and so
yeah,
is someone who lives on the Alabama-Georgia border. Which way are they? Like, really, a mile affects? It's just crazy to me.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so when I hear you say Missouri and Minnesota, I'm like, cool. There's great track coaches. Like, it's all track coach. We're all doing the same sport. Triple jump is the
yeah.
same in Minnesota as in California for crying out loud. So, yeah,
What I've learned when I went to the Minnesota Coaches Convention,
it's cool.
I taught just how to manage a multi-event athlete.
Hmm.
So just the schedule looks like.
Hmm.
But I'm also the keynote speech there. And what I learned from the coaches there is that they will coach each other's athletes if they're not available. And I've never heard that.
Yeah.
So what I've learned from other states so far is that California is a little more rigid with the coaching styles,
Hmm.
right? Versus other states, I've seen more of like more community.
You might enjoy last year, 2024, in April and May, I think I did it. But you can just search and it'll pop up. So I did a bonus series for the podcast where I interviewed a high school coach from every state. So there's 51 because I included Washington, D.C. So 51 unique high school coaches in one of each state to talk about how they qualified for their state meet for their
Oh my God.
outdoor state meet. Because I thought, yeah, well, you're in California, you already know that was one of the more like JT Ayers, great coach,
Yeah.
helped us with that one, and JT Ayers is a super smart guy, great communicator, and I still was like, JT, I don't know that I could qualify a kid to California because I still don't understand it for some reason. But
So hard.
it was wild the difference of there is, I'm about to say the exact opposite of what I just said. There is such a difference of culture in each state for many, many reasons. Like one of the questions we asked every state was, do you have a, oh gosh, like New Jersey they have their divisions, but then they have one. I'm gonna call it an all-star meet. A true state meet, if you will. And some states do, most don't, but like California was like, no, that's called our state meet. We have one state meet, so that is our all classes state meet. I asked that question to like Montana or Wyoming, and they're like, dude, our state is so like, do you know how long it takes to get from east to west in our state? To try to come back after the state meet and do that would be impossible. And I was like, oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Never thought about that, And then, there's some New England states, we asked about like if there's any kind of like unofficial state meet, like Alabama after the state meet will do an unofficial heptathlon and decathlon. So anybody who's interested in doing those events, they've been doing it forever. It's awesome. Some states do. Another state does a hammer unofficial state meet and things like that. Up in, I think it was Connecticut or New Hampshire, they do a decathlon, but they do the decathlon. So all boys and girls who want to do do a decathlon. And I was like, wait a minute. No
Wow.
one's doing a girl decathlon. Like that's a big talking point in our sport of moving the heptathlon to decathlon. Here's this little state up in New England and gets 100 kids. A
Wow.
100 girls are going up and doing the decathlon, and so it just blew me away. When you talk about Minnesota, the different cultures of just in their state. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Even though we're all, it's so easy to move. Half the New Jersey coaches are from other states. They grew up in other states and things like that, and all the states have that example. It's just amazing to me the difference for geography, weather.
Yeah.
We've just always done it this way. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I love it, and I think it's great. It's a fun experience, and I do want to just add this last piece in with
Please.
um, for just co all coaches in general. The more work you do for yourself allows you to be the best version for the kids. This means if you're a high school teacher full time and you coach a sport, please get a certification of some sort, not for proof, just to give you additional questions in your mind to add to your training. Maybe self-reflection. I've done leadership work for myself. I'm big on self-help, metaphysics. I study all these concepts. I study film. Like the more education you have for yourself, it bleeds onto the kids you work with. And they can sense it and they feel it. And that's what I mean by coaches that are in shape. The kids see that. Not necessarily like six pack. It's just when you're in shape, maybe you can hear what they're saying from their perspective. Just more of that allows us all to be better coaches, which makes this process so much easier.
That's true. I love that. Well, Keenan, I've got a challenge for you. You just challenged a lot of high school coaches, so I got a challenge for you. I think you might be in a unique situation with your experiences and your background to lead the charge of high school clubs and high school track teams working together because I don't see either of them going away.
Mhm.
Luckily, I don't see our high school coaches and programs going away. In fact, we're growing. I love that, and I just see as many clubs, track specific clubs that we have out there. It feels like every year I'm hearing more and more and more, and I love that. It's all good. It's all good, but there is conflict there, and so someone has to, to use political terms, reach across the aisle and talk about that. And knowing again, you're going to have 1%, less than 1% of each that just they don't want to work with anybody. They're God's gift to track, and so we just got to get out of the way for those people, I guess. So I'm going to encourage you, challenge you, speak at more clinics. You obviously have a teacher's heart because you're doing these YouTube videos and your courses. So you have a understanding of like, oh, I do have things to help other people. I want to help. You heard that voice back in the weight room that said, what do you want to do with your life? And your only answer you could come up, you couldn't come up with a specific like, oh, I want to be, because there's a lot of avenues you could do, but your
Yeah.
your response was, I want to help people. That was your response. So you could have went on to become an EMT. That helps people.
Yeah.
You could have gone on and become someone who adopts kids. Like, oh, I'm gonna be a foster parent. That helps people. And
Yeah.
you chose to go into track. Thank you, by the way. That helps me if more people go into track. Um, so you have that servant heart to serve others, to help others. So while you certainly and rightfully so have focused on the technical side, and I know you talked about mental and things like that, but the how to coach an athlete, how to make them a better athlete. I'm going to challenge you on how do you create a platform, a speaking style, topics around how do we get communication. How do we? What did you call it? Not. I was using chess terms, so I was thinking like grandmaster or whatever they call chess
Oh,
experts.
governing faculty.
The govern, yeah, like that kind of language, like that. Let that be your theme of like, okay, and here's what I mean by that. High school and club coaches. That means it really means communicate. Like I spell communication, governing. you know,
Yeah.
I just want to challenge you that and
Yeah.
encourage you that because again, that'll help the kids at the end of the day. We will have higher participation rates. We'll have kids who don't are frustrated because this coach is saying this and this coach is saying that, and they don't really seem to care about me. They can't kind of seem to care about themselves. So I'm going to go do basketball or volleyball or math club or whatnot. There's a lot of options for kids out there, guys.
Yeah.
So I think that will increase our participation, and I think that will also increase our athletes' satisfaction of the sport. Doesn't it obviously I think will make them better athletes, and that's great. But I would love for a kid, even who's not going to go on to do college, 99% of the kids aren't going to go to college to do their sport. I would love for them just to walk away from our sport going, boy, you know what, though? While I didn't compete in college, man, I had a great time. My coach, when you talked about your coaches in high school, they cared about you.
100%.
We need more kids walking away from our sport going, man, that coach loved me. Like that coach cared about me because then they'll do that with whether their own kids or if they coach or teach or whatever teammates at a business that they'll go with that posture because leadership matters and that's what they'll see in front of you. And I think you have certainly learned that leadership matters from a very, very young age. And so I'm just really excited for hopefully you do that. I don't do a very good job of checking in, so you're not going to get a check in a year from now going, hey, what have you done? I just bless you to do that and just know it's on wax. People are going to hear me challenging you doing that. And just I think you could be a great person to help bring our sport forward on the coaching side, specifically with club and high school coaches. So you didn't know you were going to get challenged on this podcast, or you might not have come on. So that's why I don't tell anybody. Keenan, thank you so much, man. The most valuable thing that you can give me is your time. There's a lot of things. I know you're busy. You're obviously busy. There's a lot of things. You probably got 100 text message and voicemails during this time. So truly grateful for you spending time and sharing your journey with us, and just really thankful for you, man.
Well, I really appreciate it. And the answer is yes with the challenge. You got it. And yeah, I think we can all make this a great experience for the kids and we can, one by one, make everything fall into place. So
I love it. I love it. All right, my man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here today. I know this was a unique one. Yeah, again, I've done 300 of them, and it's interesting to me when I get kind of a unique vibe in a very positive manner. And again, very grateful, Keinan, for your ability to have those conversations and be challenged and challenge back. I really do appreciate that. So I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. This might be one of those where you might have to rewind and listen to it again. There's a lot of nuggets there. There's a lot of information there. And, we'll check back in a year from now and see if he really accepted that challenge. Guys and gals, thank you again so much for being here. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again and have some fun. See you guys.